Andie Simon. This is my husband, Andie Simon. And thanks for coming to our party. We've got a launch party ready for you to have a great time. People said to me, what's a launch party for a new book? Well, the new book is out. It's been out since January. And some of you were supposed to come January 6th, but you remember it wasn't such a great day. So we moved it to today. And today I've got a great lineup for you. Let me tell you a little bit about it. We're going to start with some introductions to the people who are in the book. There are 10 amazing women in there, and to my family, because I want to tell you about them as well. This is my husband, Andi, and he's going to tell you a little bit about how this all came about with the Simon Initiative for Entrepreneurship. And then we've got some speakers. We've got Maxine Clark and Edie Fraser. I've got 3 of the women in the book to tell you about what they're doing. And then we get to Freddie Ravel. And Freddie is going to really give us a great musical celebration for Rethink is about life in tune. And he's created a huge program that I think you're just going to love. So with that in mind, let me thank the people who have come. I really want to thank the folks in the audience who are our family. I can't tell you how many people we have who are all from all over the country. My Texas friends haven't had such an easy time of it. I know that. But I also know that I've had family all day long telling me how they can't wait to celebrate with us. And then we have friends from across the world, South Africa, Australia. I have local friends, longtime friends, friends from my college roommate days. It's been absolutely wonderful to bring together people. And I know the folks on the screen are all smiling. So it's really fun to share with you and the audience why this is so important. I want to start with an introduction, though. Well, this is my husband. My daughters are on the screen here, and as are my granddaughters. In some ways, I wrote this book thinking of them. There's my daughter, Alex, and my granddaughter, Catherine, my daughter, Rachel, and my granddaughter, Lulu. One of the reviewers said, now I have a book I can give to my 17-year-old daughter so she can see that she can be the best she can be. Knowing my granddaughters, they're already thinking about what they want to aspire to. And as I read the book again today, I actually read it all over again today. I went, this just is such fun to share our thoughts. So my daughters are here, and I want to thank them for raising their parents really well. And we have such a good time together. It's really a treat. But there's also another message. Several of you have said that in the book, we talk about celebrating our life as women in business. But there's also other sides to it. As mothers, as friends, as part of the community. Somebody actually said, why didn't we write more about that? I think that's another book. I think that may actually be the catalyst for the next book. So that means we could do another book launch again. But from today, I want to really introduce to you the women who are in the book, because I want to thank them for sharing their stories. Let me put them in context. The book came about because, you want to talk a little bit about the Simon Initiative?
Well, I wasn't prepared for this, but I'd be delighted to. Andi and I supported the Simon Initiative at Washington University. And one of the things that we found after we talked was, and we had workshops, was the women really needed role models. And there were no role models at the university at the time. So when Andi was writing a book, she thought about how can we introduce people so that people can follow someone's path rather than doing it on a de novo basis.
And then I interviewed about 50 women. People who said, how can you figure out who to put in the book? Well, I must tell you, you could shoot a dart and everyone could have been in the book. But they couldn't. And Celeste is laughing. And he and I were driving up to Nantucket like we do every June, and I'm reading to him the stories, and he said, you know, as Andi would say to me, they're really smashing the myths of women in business. And I went, oh my gosh, that's a much better book. So I went back to my publisher and I said, can I write it over again? And they said, sure, it's your book. And so we did, because what the stories were telling us wasn't just about their life stories. And so many of you are smiling. And you weren't out there to smash myths. You were really out there to have a great life. So I want to tell you a little bit about each one of the people here so the audience can get a tease. And you can either with me or you can grab a seat, whatever makes you comfortable.
I'm listening and I'm vertical.
So let me go around the room so that as you think about my little tidbits, I tease you to want to read the book in full because the stories are all terrific. I'll start with Evelyn Medvin, who is the sister of a dear friend and client of mine, who said, you've got to interview my sister. What did I discover? A woman in the geosciences who grew up and discovered earth science in high school. I won't tell you exactly why she was in that class. But she said, what else was I going to do? I put on boots every Saturday in Oklahoma to go study the earth. And people said she just felt the earth. Well, you got to read her story to understand how she turned that passion into a profession and into a great success, and how she's helping other women. And then there's Jamie Candy. Jamie has a dear part in our heart. She became CEO of Andi's company, and they were able to take Questar Assessment to the 5th largest in the space. It was a fabulous company. And then it was sold to ETS. And I celebrate that with Andi. I must tell you, that was a great move. And then Jamie went back to Admentum, a company she had been with. And she is, now, Jamie's stories about women don't lead. You got to meet Jamie. And it isn't leading the way men do. It's really, how do women lead differently? And there's no better time than now to talk about women leaders. We'll come back to Maxine Clark, because Maxine wrote the foreword to the book, and she's going to tell you a lot more about building Build-A-Bear. When you think about it, Maxine Clark rethought retail before anybody else did. And I want to hold her because she's going to give you a little bit more about that aha moment and why that was so important. It's a great story. And then Stephanie Breedlove is my entrepreneur who everyone said, oh, that'll never work. Oh, every entrepreneur knows that'll never work. And next thing you know, it works. And they say, oh, that was obvious. What she saw was a need for a nanny tax company. Breedlove and Associates became a great success out of an idea. It was really one of those unmet needs that like, but everyone said don't. And then she did. And then she sold it to care.com, wrote a book, and she's helping women. Sam Radocchia, you're going to hear about also. And Sam, we met at a Cranes conference where she was talking about blockchain. I love blockchain. She was building a company around blockchain. She's an anthropologist and a technologist. My dear heart there. But what's so exciting is she's had 4 companies, maybe 5. And she's a 30 under 30. And every time she goes in front of the venture capitalists, they ask where the IT person is. And she laughs. And they want her to be the chief people officer. We have stereotypes to blow. Babette Ballinger, a near and dear to our heart friend who actually went to college with Andi. That's another story. But Babette found her way through the fashion industry. And as she wove her way through, she built lots of businesses for the guys until finally she launched Babette Ballinger and then American Knitworks and built it for herself. But she was a story that reflects what's going on in America in terms of manufacturing. And then what happens when you can actually create a great, great fashion and how difficult it is. Then I have Andie Kramer. You're going to hear a little more from Andi. Andi was told not to be a lady lawyer. Nobody wants a lady lawyer. And I laughed because I was either going to be a lawyer or an anthropologist. So I could have been a lady lawyer too. But instead, Andi became a great lawyer. And now she's helping others really address the gender bias. She'll tell you how. Delora Tyler, I'm glad you're with us. Thank you so much for coming. Delora sat in meetings at the Detroit News and nobody listened to her. She was a star saleswoman. I've been in those meetings where she says something and everyone ignores it. So what does she do? She goes off and forms First Media Group, sets up a great company, picks up clients, and is a major success story. I hired her. She's terrific. And I'm so glad you're with us and you're laughing. Celeste Ford was a client. Celeste is in an industry that women aren't in. And Celeste has a Rethink there. But what did she do? She wandered her way through aerospace. There aren't any women in aerospace. And here she then forms Stellar Solutions, a Malcolm Baldrige Award company that's so extraordinary that it just keeps growing and growing, doing sophisticated things in the aerospace industry. Edie Fraser. Now, Edie is you're going to hear from Edie in a little while. She's the thoughts behind the Women's Business Collaborative. She has more awards than I can list. She's a fabulous woman who I'm inspired by. But Edie came to me through Lynn Bourne, who was going to be in the book, but wasn't. But Edie knows Maxine. So I'm telling you about how little this world is, because I didn't know Edie knew Maxine, and Maxine didn't know I was having Edie review the book. And I love Women's Business Collaborative, and you will as well. Janine Firpo, you're going to hear more from, but she has built a wonderful life helping women with money in Africa, teaching them how to use their phones to do banking, but all kinds of other things. She has a new book coming out, And she's going to tell you about how she's going to help women invest in their passion and purpose so they can get great returns, but also do good. Maria Gallo. Oh, Maria took over a college, a university, and we helped them find their blue ocean. Only it wasn't easy. And her whole career was of wonderful mentors. And there's a theme of mentors here. There weren't a lot of women mentors, a lot of guy mentors. And nobody's necessarily on a track to get somewhere. But somehow we get moved along until all of a sudden we're in the right place. Sharon Reynolds is joining us tonight to talk about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And how do women, in fact, succeed? So this is our world here. Because what I love about the stories is that it appeals to anybody who has a dream, who wants to put on their hiking boots and go study geology, go for it. Right? Who wants to lead and pull tassels off corn when you're 9 years old, you never know where it's going to take you. And I can only tell you that every one of the stories in the book, and as the women are all smiling, they know that their story is inspiring to others. And my hope is that's just what it does. So what I'd like to do is toast you all. And everybody in the audience can raise their own glass. It's a perfect time for us to toast the women. And all of you with copies of your book, go ahead, pull them all up. Let's do it. Ta-da!
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 Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, Andi. Great book.
A toast to
Cheers,
women
Andi.
everywhere.
Andy.
Here we go. Here's to everybody.
Yes, to everybody.
Now, Janine, you and Andi and Sam are going to stay on. We're going to move everyone else off. Elisa and Melissa, you're going to take care of it. And then Maxine and Edie and Sharon are going to come back. And everybody who's home watching, hang on there because we're going to have some fun talking about how women are transforming women, and you can do the same. So would you like to sit? Or do you want to stay
Sure.
here with me?
Well, I will. I'll see how long I last.
Okay, who's going to win our first book giveaway? We have 6 books to give away tonight.
Yes. So our first winner of the book is Christina Walker.
Yay! Janine, I thought you might go first. So let me tell everybody a little bit more about you. She believes that women can create a more just, equitable society by investing their money in alignment with their personal values. So as you think about this in the audience, are you investing the way you'd like? I know you want a great return. She's living proof that they can do this without giving up financial returns. So she's had a fascinating career helping women in Africa, bringing in their financial services on an iPhone. And she's done great work with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Tell us what you're doing now, because I think it matters to how people can begin to see what can come out of both the book and the work that you're doing.
Great. Well, first of all, I want to just say how honored I am to be included in your book. It really was an enjoyable process, and I'm honored. So thank you so much. And thank you for having me speak. I really appreciate that as well. What I'm doing right now, I retired from a 20 plus year career in international development, trying to solve problems of poverty in developing countries around the world about 3 years ago. And while I was on the path doing that work, at some point more than a decade ago, I started to realize that my money was invested in the things that were creating the problems that I was trying to solve with my life's blood. And so I decided that I wanted to start to put my money to work in the things that I cared about. And I've been on this journey for about 10 years. And I can happily say that I have shown myself that it is very possible to invest your money in the things you care about without giving up financial return. In fact, I'm actually outperforming in some cases. So I realize there's a real opportunity now for women to start thinking more about their money. We really don't take control of our money the way that we should. And we often are not investing our money. We're allowing other people to do it for us, and we're not paying as much attention. And this leaves us at risk, particularly as we age and get ready for retirement. So I've written a book. It will be published in May. It's called Activate Your Money, Invest to Grow Your Wealth and Build a Better World. And it talks about the journey that I've taken, but even more importantly, it helps women learn the fundamentals of investing. It helps them take control of their money. It helps them become more confident investors. And it points them directly to the kinds of investments they can make today in their communities, in supporting other women, in ensuring that we have a safe and sustainable planet for our children and our grandchildren.
This sounds so exciting. As you're thinking about it, we'll talk afterwards to people if they want to reach you, have a way of getting to you, and also pre-ordering the book. There's something that Janine's doing that's really remarkable in both its focus and what women are really looking to do. So this is terrific. Let me go over to Andie Kramer. Andie has done a bunch of podcasts for us, as does Janine and Sam. But Andie and Al are the co-authors of 2 award-winning books, Breaking Through Biased Communication Techniques for Women to Succeed at Work. And It's Not You, It's the Workplace, a great book that I love. It's all about bias. I love your books. But you got to tell a little bit about being a lady lawyer and how they told you never to be. And then what happened, please.
Well, as to not being told that being a lady lawyer would mean that no one would ever love me, I would never have a family, I would never have any friends, I would be alone, no one would like me, really did touch on some of the biases that do affect women in the workplace today. And so if you want to read about that, I urge you to read the chapter in Andie's book, Rethink. What I'd like to do for just a few minutes today, though, is to say, well, what do we do about all of this? Discovering and finding out that we have a world where women are not perceived as being as talented, as competent, as ambitious, as interested in leadership that we are. What can we do about it? And I started to speak and write about this probably 25 years ago at this point, trying to maybe 30 years, trying to identify what we could do in today's workplaces where we could overcome the bias that we experience just because we're women. And so that's what started the Breaking Through Bias and It's Not You, It's the Workplace. And what I found was that very often the stereotypes that women have about themselves are the same stereotypes that men and other women have about us. And so what we really need to do is to break through bias. We really need to understand this sort of relationship, and we need to get men involved in the conversation. We're not going to be able to change this problem by ourselves. And that's really why I asked Al to work with me on writing our books that we've done together. And we're just finishing up the 2020 mentorship program where we've paired 70 young women professionals and women students with 70 plus seasoned mentors, men and women. And we're just now, because we find that makes all the difference in the world, having somebody who can help you, give you some suggestions, bring you along is really, really important. And so we're actually starting our 2021 program and hope that some of you who are here today would like to join us on that journey and sign up to be a mentor and recommend some women that you think would be good mentees. And so we've got a long way to go and a long journey, but we can help ourselves, and at the same time, we can help each other.
How super. One of the things that we've learned is that men often have sponsors and women have mentors. They do different things. I know as you're thinking mentors, you're thinking men and women helping each other, and that changes the dynamic so that both of them can move up into organizations and overcome those biases. So big ideas. Super. Thank you. And then Sam. May I call you Sam Rad tonight?
Always.
And let me a little introduction. We met Sam at a Cranes conference, and we just flipped. She's known as Sam Rad. She's an early blockchain pioneer and advocate who combines the mindsets of an anthropologist, which is why I loved it, and a technologist. And she started really early building ways of connecting those, even doing origin myths of companies. How cool. She's like a corporate trainings at Fortune 100 companies, a contributor to Forbes, a 30 under 30. Are you 4-time entrepreneur or 5-time entrepreneur now?
I'm on my 4th.
You're on your 4th.
Hopefully not 5. That would be too many.
Yeah, I got a great book called Bitcoin Pizza. Please share with the folks what you're up to and how do we make STEM something that women look forward to. Think about the STEM here. Maria Gallo, a scientist. Evelyn Medvin, a scientist. Yourself, crossing all over in terms of STEM. Help us, help women.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Andi, and to everyone. Of course, I feel super honored to be amongst the likes of such incredible women and people. I suppose you already kind of preempted my introduction. I have sort of an odd background into STEM. So I came from theater and anthropology. And at an early age, I realized I was really interested in using technology to empower people or to support them or support behaviors. And I actually had come from the gaming world. So I taught myself to code at a very young age. But not in any sort of institutional or collegiate level. I actually studied anthropology and theater. So I started my first company in college. And when I was getting to the point of raising money, I would sit in these meetings, as you said in the introduction. And this wasn't just the first company, it was the second and the third company, where I was actually the CTO of that company. And they said, "Where's your technical co-founder?" And I said, "Oh, well, it's me. I built the whole thing." And, literally baffled. One, because maybe I was a woman. The second, because I didn't have the formal computer science education. So the first part that I'd say is talking about smashing myths. One myth is, a myth is that you need the computer science degree. And that is true for some people. I totally believe in that. At the second phase, though, is if we think about STEM and access to ability to code or no code tools, is that really the skill set we need in the coming generation? Or is it really more of a logical mindset, an empathetic mindset, an anthropologist mindset? Of course, I'm biased, you're biased, maybe, but I like to think a lot about code thinking. So really thinking about why you're building something and what you're building. The second phase of how we support female entrepreneurs. So in complete honesty, after I got that feedback a few times, I did do a master's in a very technical master's in coding boot camps. And what I found in that is that I just didn't like doing it. I liked managing and orchestrating it and helping to enable these systems. And so I tried and I still didn't to fit the mold. But the reality is, I saw this year, 2.8% of funding is going to female entrepreneurs. And that's a serious problem. And it's not just a problem in terms of investors to entrepreneurs, it's investors and their LPs, the lack of female investors, the lack of female LPs. It's just not coming down into the, I guess, in quotes, boys club. So that's something that I'm really passionate about forwarding in my new company. So yes, of course, I wrote this book. I don't want to promote it, but I wrote this book, Bitcoin Pizza, a year ago. I guess Bitcoin is now in the public discourse again. So that's good, for people who are interested in a cultural understanding of why the technology is important. That's why I wrote the book. It does not give investment advice. However, I think there are a lot of compelling arguments as to, why we're seeing these trends towards decentralization. But in terms of what I'm working on right now, it's a new company. It's the fourth company. It's called Love, and I'm the CEO of the company. So finally, from the first company in full circle, combining all the technical skill sets back into the marketing skill sets and anthropologist skill sets. And we're working on building a new way to communicate with people close to you. And the model of the company is completely different. One, it's primarily women, younger women as the demographic is interested in it. Two, we've co-created the entire product and company with them. And three, the model really is to hand this off to the people who are using the platform. So if you can imagine a world where instead of Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and Jack Dorsey and Twitter, no offense to them, but a world with these figures and shareholders that control the ways that we interact with the world, one where it's fully democratized and the people actually using the platform own it with, one share, one vote. That's what we're doing. So it's a bold mission. It could be wildly successful or wildly not, but in terms of my mission, it's democratizing it from every level in terms of our team, our leadership, our investors, and their LPs. And that's, as you know, and go up the chain, it's incredibly difficult. I'm still operating on the entrepreneur level. So any investors, I know very sophisticated people on this call can understand the challenges as we, try to bring more women into every area of the chain.
It's interesting. I got a request to write an article about culture change during this period of time, but you're actually trying to, in fact, change the culture and do it in a way which can have tremendous multiplier effects because it's transformative. And it's a little like Clubhouse. It's all of a sudden becoming hot. And I hope love becomes hot too, because I do think we need a little love. So this is such a wonderful group. Everyone in the book is wonderful. I can't have you all up here for tonight, but I wanted to have the audience sample what the kinds of stories are, the kind of women and what kinds of work they're doing, and the kind of vision and inspiration. My hope is that it inspires you in the audience to see what can be done and how women are in fact doing it. And they're doing it sometimes with guys, but sometimes not. And all of it is coming together in very powerful ways. So I thank you very much. I know Eliza is going to give us another book pull. I guess I'm not going to forget this time. And then we'll slowly move you off and bring on Maxine, Edie, and Sharon to tell us a little more about their experiences and their passions. For those in the audience, there's a lot of passion here, a lot of purpose, a lot of focus, a lot of fun. If nothing else, you can see these folks are doing this not just for self, but for others. And I do think that's the inspiration. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Yay. So, Eliza, Melissa, shall we move on? Pull me another person.
Donna Cornell. Donna Cornell.
Oh, Donna, you've got a book. I will sign it just for you. A little bit of segue. I'm a storyteller. What we've learned is that as you're listening to these stories, your own story changes in your mind. And so the power of the story isn't just in telling it, but is in helping you begin to see things through a fresh lens as well. And if you listen to my podcast, my job is to help you see, feel, and think in new ways. And that's just what this Rethink, Smashing the Myths of Women is all about. How do we get us to rethink women and what we can do? So, Maxine, are you coming on? There you are. How is St. Louis?
Cold.
I know. I'm so glad you made it. I was afraid that everything would be frozen. I'm going to start with Maxine. And not knowing you and Edie knew each other, we can just start with Maxine. Maxine, I said, how shall I introduce you? She said, I just founded Build-A-Bear Workshops. It's enough. And I met Maxine through the Simon Initiative for Entrepreneurship. She's very involved in Washington University in the Scandalera Center, and has been a real leader for so many things for St. Louis and WashU. And she's got many programs going on. But what I loved is the way in which she shares her story, her experiences, so other women can do the same. So Maxine, please share with our audience both your story and what you're doing now, because I think it really matters.
Yeah, it's a long story, so I'll try to make it really short. But I wanted to add that I probably wouldn't have started Build-A-Bear if it wasn't for Edie and other women just like her. We were at a meeting in San Francisco, and everybody always chats, like, what's going on? What are you up to? And I threw the story out there, and they all said, do it, go for it, and had a million ideas. So, it was funny when you told me about it, because Edie and I just really hit it off. I remember sitting in her house, having a conversation with her many times. She's always encouraging other entrepreneurs, and she's been on this program of including women for decades. And I think I applaud her, and I'm so thankful to her and other women like her in the Committee of 200 that we worked with. But I started Build-A-Bear. Actually, this is a good story for a lot of women on the show, because I didn't start Build-A-Bear right out of college or as young as Sam was when she started her business. I actually started Build-A-Bear when I was 48 years old. I had a long career in retailing with the May department stores. On my way to be an attorney, I was in Washington, D.C. to go to law school and had to get a job. And I ended up loving the job, and I took a leave of absence from law school, which I'm still on today. And I say to people, it's the journey is far better than the destination, that you just have to kind of go with the flow. And I had a great opportunity in this company as an executive trainee. And unfortunately, my boss got really sick, and they needed me to check in to take over from him. And that year, almost a year that he was out, I learned so much because I knew nothing, and I knew what I didn't know. And so I was able to pick the brains of all the vendors and all the suppliers and all the people around me who wanted me to be successful, but not as much as they wanted Harry to be able to come back and get his bonus. So they just had to dump everything into me, and I absorbed it. And I think that's really, plays to my, probably my superpower of curiosity. But long through the May Company, great career, president of Payless Shoe Source. I always say you can never have too many teddy bears or too many shoes, right? And now teddy bears have shoes. So it's a perfect entry. And I knew when I started at 48, I wasn't going to do it forever because I had several other ideas and things I wanted to do. So it was important that I build this company, but I also build a team that could take over from me in a relatively short period of time. So on that way, we took the company public. We got everything into position. We were doing really well, and the recession hit. And I wasn't going to leave during the recession. I had to wait until we had it all back on track. And so when we did, I told the board I was ready to go on to my next venture, which was going to be more in the world of philanthropy, helping other people have success, mentoring other women and minority entrepreneurs as much as I could in the years that I had left on this planet. And so I went off into the wild blue yonder, not really knowing exactly what I was going to do, because I had this philosophy when working with so many nonprofits that they needed a business mentality. They really needed to think of themselves more as an enterprise, as Janine was talking about. So people would be investors in them, not just donors in their work. And I had that same philosophy, but I wished I'd known Janine back then when I started on a project. And, associated with Washington University, you get involved in a lot of projects. And one of the projects was a charter school we were opening right near WashU. And I got to know the neighbors. And one day I just took a right turn instead of a left, which is something that I often do, just to wander around the neighborhood. And I saw them putting a sign in this great big gigantic building, was a former hospital built in 1904 that was for sale. And I said, what are you going to do? This is a neighborhood that doesn't need, things to be torn down. It needs things to be built back up. And I inquired about buying the building, and I did buy it. And we've been developing it for the last 4 years. Not all the development just started about 6 months ago, but we've been financing it, putting together the capital stack for this project, which was much harder than starting Build-A-Bear. I used to think that was the hardest thing I ever did, but this was much harder because it's in a community that has been underinvested or disinvested, and nobody really wanted to, really do it. The only thing that, moved it along was my tenacity, because I think they knew I wasn't going to give up. And the only way they could get rid of me is to give me the money to do it. And so that's where we are. We started this past summer. We'll open in the fall, our first part of it, which is going to be offices for nonprofits with a whole collaborative work system, working alongside of Washington University to create that. And then apartments that'll open in the spring of 2022 for teachers, nurses, social worker, public health, public safety, all those people that make the economy go, especially in times like we've just lived through. They really are. And in St. Louis, the nonprofit community is about the third largest, economic sector, although people don't look at it as an economic sector sometimes. And that'll be apartments and affordable, not affordable by the technical terms of affordable by the government, but it is going to be market rate that are affordable for teachers and people that make that $35,000 to $55,000 salary that don't qualify for any other subsidy, but still need help in living in a cool place. And it's right between Washington University undergrad campus and the medical school campus, on the bus line, near 2 metro stops, near Forest Park. It's Hollywood and Vine for St. Louis, but it was left to fall apart for decades, and we're bringing it back together. So we're building a community, a neighborhood within a neighborhood, similar to building a company like Build-A-Bear. It is one step at a time, and it takes a village to raise a bear and to raise a project like this. So I'm excited to be using my entrepreneurial skills and my curiosity to do something even greater for my community, for St. Louis. I'm not from here, but it's my hometown for the last 40 some years. And I'm proud to be from here. And I'm glad to be part of what we're doing to make it a better place to live, work, and play.
You know, as I'm listening to you, I'm not from St. Louis either, but I was a visiting professor at WashU for a semester. Andie is a devoted alum. And I know the audience is filled with WashU people. A lot of WSU people came tonight, both for the Scandalera Center, old friends of Andie's, John Shale, and Linda and Mark and Mary. I mean, the whole WashU guys showed up. As you're talking, you're inspiring us and them to realize that there's so much to be done, and yet we can all do it, and women are doing it, and it's okay. And I have no idea where you're going to go next with it, but I have a hunch you're not done yet. It's coming next. No. So it's really cool. I thank you. Thank you for writing the foreword to the book.
You're welcome.
As we thought about it, Maxine, who we met through the Simon Initiative by chance, she rethought retail and was a perfect entree into the book. And now as you're rethinking St. Louis, man, I'll tell you, there's a real multiplier there, and people are going to be blessed and lucky to be part of it. So thank you.
It's also, just to add this, it's about collaboration. And sometimes people think they have to go it alone, but you really don't. And, you know, the Washington University is a significant partner in this. We have a phenomenal board, a very diverse board. And we also have other partners, our development partner, other people that have contributed to this, so that I don't want it to be about me. It doesn't have my name on it, even though I've been a financial contributor. It's about the community. And that's what's going to make it so special, is it's made up of a million ideas from the people that live in the neighborhood and the little work in the building. And that's the fun of it. I've learned so much.
You know, I'm watching some of the chat come through, and I can't tell you, Robin Bass, a client of mine, said, "Oh, you are so inspiring me." Donna Cornell sent along, "This is so exciting." I hope other people in the audience can see how we can make things better together. And I think I'm going to go to Edie and to Sharon in one moment, because we're going to talk about how do we go further, faster together. The theme of collaboration is a big one. But I also think that Eliza wants to draw a new book so that we can give away our third book, because I'm being really sensitive to how many books we give away tonight. Eliza, please.
Of course, I would love to give away another one of your books. Suzanne Wagstaff, you are the winner.
Isn't that remarkable? Suzanne is with the Alumni Association at WashU. How lucky can we get? Suzanne, thank you so much for coming tonight and bringing everybody around. Suzanne has set up a panel for us to talk about the book for the alumni on March the 2nd. I think it's at 6:30. And so those of you in the audience who want to hear more from some more people, Babette Ballinger will be talking. She's a WashU alum. And so, Suzanne, you're a lucky lady tonight, and I'm lucky that you're here.
Actually, Suzanne has very generously said that she already has several copies of your book, and she would like me to pick another winner, and I am happy to do so, Andie, if you're fine with that.
Yes, please. Thank you, Suzanne.
All right. How about another Suzanne, believe it or not, Suzanne Marsh.
Hey, Susie Marsh. Is that true, Susie Marsh? Yes. Susie Marsh is a dear cousin of ours. And if that's a Suzanne Marsh, I am so excited that she's here. And that's terrific. Yay. I'll sign it and send it along with lots of love. Hey, thank you, Elisa. You're picking great people. Everybody in the audience is great. So with that in mind, that's from Stephen Simon. Yay, Susie. It is Susie. Yay. Maxine, thank you. May I introduce Edie Fraser? And let me tell you, Edie came to me through Lynn Bourne by chance. So much of tonight is by chance. And I do believe in serendipity. My life feels like one. But I can give you a resume of Edie that's, 2 hours long, like each one of the women here. She said to me, just say that I'm the CEO and the inspiration for the Women's Business Collaborative. And I'm going to let her tell you about it, because once you get into collaborating, you begin to see how it multiplies. The women in the Women's Business Collaborative are among the most generous and kind. Sharon, Pat Shea, that this is just a group of women who I would never have met otherwise. And we can't get enough time together to share enough ideas about ourselves and to help each other in all kinds of ways. So Edie, let's talk about this concept. How did it come about and where are we going with it? Let's share.
First of all, can we just stop and salute Andie and Rethink with everyone? and to say, gosh, Maxine, to you, Sam, Janine, and Andie so far, thank you.
Thank you.
It just is very special when you think about how we can drive so much faster together and, yes, be the change. We can go further, and the time is to rethink. Maxine Clark, you are really special. Yes, I met you when you were head of the big shoe company with your dream for innovation of Build the Bear. And you not only took your dream, the fact that you called yourself Chief Bear, the CEO, was so innovative itself. And then you've really gone on to give a life of giving. And I'm so proud to have written a book on do your giving while you're living. And you're doing it, but most of you that are joining us today are doing it. To Sharon Reynolds, you are my little sister, and you are driving the edge with Devmar Manufacturing. You're going after COVID solution with disinfectants, but you've been an entrepreneur for nearly 27 years. And what you do for WBC and what you do to give back every day, we just appreciate you. And so I did pull a couple of business women leaders and others that I just wanted to say, help us rethink. Indra Nooyi and Oprah Winfrey, and let's start with Indra, the former CEO of PepsiCo. You know, she said the challenge of a leader is looking around the corner and making change before it's too late to go make the change. And she was joined, you remember Ursula Burns, the first Black CEO of Xerox? Find something that you love to do and find a place that you really like to do it. Believe there are no limitations, no barriers to success, and you'll be empowered to achieve. Just rethink. And Mary Barra, take us up to date, the CEO of General Motors, because what she said, whatever you decide to do it with passion and with all the energy that you have. And now she's taken on zero carbon emissions as the CEO of GM. And joined with Oprah Winfrey, who said passion is energy. Feel the power that comes with focusing on what excites you. And go back to Helen Keller, because she said, if you want to go fast, you can go alone. If you want to go far and further, go together. Together, we've got so much to do. And then Madeleine Albright, if you think it, you remember she said there's place in hell for women that don't support women. So all of us, we're going to heaven because we are committed to really propelling one another. So yes, years, it's been fun to drive some movements around women and clearly diversity. And then starting STEM Connector, Sam, because we realized we could drive change. And we came up with Million Women Mentors and said, we can get 1 million women to mentor. And in 6 years, we got 2.5 million to commit to 20 hours a year to mentor, sponsor, have apprenticeships, internships, or online. And now together, we've taken on gender equality and say the time is now. And if we collaborate and really support each other, we are going to change the face of women, CEOs, C-suite, entrepreneurs, boards. So it just is so fitting. I look back and I started because when President Kennedy said, ask not what you can do for your country, ask what you can do. And I then spent 5 years on the Peace Corps. And then when Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy were shot, even though I came from retail, like Maxine or my friend Kay Unger, who's listening on the screen, I said, what are we doing for our country? And today we care so much. And I spent 5 years on the poverty program. And it has meant so much. And now we said, what if we could bring all our women's organizations together? And with that, we have 44 women's business organizations in the Women's Business Collaborative. And it's not compete any longer. It's totally collaborate, accelerate, and with action. But we also do it with a sense of philanthropy. And Sharon mentioned Pat Shea and all of us. We're doing 100 vignettes, and Andie Simon knows, of women and philanthropy. But there is a higher purpose as we look out and we do celebrate and we drive change. So if we just think about Amanda Gorman and think about what she did at the inaugural and what she said and what she meant to light a star. And she really made such headway with us because she said, hear me as a woman, have me as your sister on purpled battleground, breaking day. So I might say that our victory is just the beginning. See me as change. Say I am the movement, that I am the year, and I am the era of the woman. Won't you be my sister? And so in thinking about what we're driving, I pay tribute to Lilly Ledbetter and the Fair Pay Act for the factory worker to the activists that gave us pay parity. And Tarana Burke, who really started the Me Too movement, who said, stand up, get up, and speak up and do something. So I know Sharon Reynolds and I have bought 50 copies of Andie's books and given them away to friends. We urge everyone, we support each other. We say we too, and a big salute, Rethink.
Oh, Edie, thank you. I can't hug you, but thank you. You, Maxine, Janine, and Andie, and Sam, you guys are you are inspiration. The chat coming through is, Edie, you are inspiring me. It's so exciting to watch the reactions. Folks who I Rethink provides the tools and the things. I mean, there's something going on that's really magical. Thank you. And I love your quotes. One of the things we're going to try and do is find new quotes and quotes that we can begin to build today so we can fill our repertoire of great thoughts. That leads us to Sharon. Sharon, I as I thought about our panel, I thought about our hour together, trying to better understand. We're new friends. And yet I feel deeply that as Edie was talking about making it happen, you're making it happen. Can you share with us and with the audience about yourself and your journey? Because it's very exciting, and I do think it takes Edie and Maxine, and it opens up another door for us. Please.
Yes. Well, thank you, Andie. And how in the world do you follow Maxine and Edie?
But you're perfect.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, congratulations, Andie. Your book is so incredibly inspiring. And I say it's lessons for making the impossible possible.
Yes.
You know,
remember, it's not me. It's every one of those women who did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Edie is not only my sister friend, she is my mentor and my inspiration for a lot of the things that I think in my journey and where I'm going. And we spend a lot of time together, and she truly is magical as it relates to just wanting women to be successful. And that's been her life's work. And I appreciate that so much. I want to say that I stand before everyone tonight as representing the next generation of entrepreneurial women coming right behind me. And have I had a journey? Absolutely. I started my career out as a mortgage banker. And by the time I was 25 years old, I owned my own mortgage company. But even before that, I had the entrepreneurial spirit. I used to design clothes and sell them to my classmates when I was a senior in high school. My Aunt Gloria, rest her soul, taught me how to sew. And I've always had a penchant for that. And I come from a long list of entrepreneurs in my family. Later in my career, I was a real estate broker and worked in investments. And then what happened that really kind of crashed the market for everyone was that economic downturn in 2008. And so what was I going to do to reinvent myself, to make myself relevant and still help our community? I am a fifth generation native Nashville. And I love the fact that our city has so much rich heritage. And how do we continue that heritage with beautiful entrepreneurs coming along behind me and women of color? How do I get to inspire them? So in 2007, right before the downturn, I could see it coming, being in real estate, I launched Devmar Products, named after our two sons, Devin and DeMarco. And it was a labor of love where we launched the company to build products that would become environmentally friendly and in the janitorial and sanitary world. And when I read your book, Rethink, I'm in a male-dominated industry where women did not exist at the time. So fast forward, we were able to partner with the Morehouse School of Medicine's research team and to develop products that would eradicate pathogens. And I didn't know that in 2020, we'd be sitting right in the middle of a pandemic. So everything that we did at that time, I think, was predestined. So I launched Devmar Products, and shortly thereafter, in 2012, I launched Devmar Manufacturing. So we have products that are products that would have to be approved by the EPA and the FDA. And I just didn't want to take a chance on having anyone else approve these products that would have to do what they are developed to do to help eradicate pathogens and make sure our environment is safe. We did that. And then later, I launched a company called Devmar Global Healthcare Solutions, where we provide human donor breast milk to micropreemie premature infants across the United States and NICUs across the United States. And I partner with a company out of Portland, Oregon. We have 3,000 mothers in the program, 300 mothers at any given time, giving their milk to NICUs of their choice. And not only that, they're able to make that choice, but they're also able to receive $1 an ounce for their milk that's commercially sterile. So a lot of mothers decide to stay home with their infants. So it's an incredible program for at-risk infants who cannot drink anything other than mom's milk for survival. Little did I know that 3 years later that I would have my first grandbaby that was premature that lived off of the same milk that we distribute. So again, it was predestined. And I was so happy to be in that moment at that time. Later, we launched Bryla J Couture Clothiers. That's a couture fashion line for women who can't really afford couture prices, but they want to look beautiful. And so about 18 months into the launch, we experienced the pandemic, but not to be put aside for 1 minute. We're going to come back just as strong. Part of our proceeds are donated to the March of Dimes and the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So I am a serial entrepreneur. I love business, but I also love more than anything giving back to our young girls and mentoring them in programs that are associated with the Enterprising Women's Young Enterprising Women program in STEAM. And so we have that program launched. And we are doing things that are incredible to make sure our young girls have an opportunity to go to college. We provide scholarships for those girls who are willing to take that journey, and we encourage them to do so. I could not be more proud to be a part of the Women Business Collaborative's Board of Directors and also the Advisory Council, where we are absolutely engaged in our community in Nashville and around the country to make a difference in the 9 action initiatives that make a difference in women's lives in business. So I am here to say, Andie, hats off to you for everything you're doing to just break those myths, to let these women know that there are opportunities for you. Never take no for an answer. Each one, reach one, teach one, mentor one. It's there for the taking. And it's women like us who have to make sure it happens. So congratulations to you. And I was so happy to tell my story this evening.
I'm so happy. You have no idea that chat's coming through for all of you. Devo just arrived. Perry Strawn. Oh, this is so inspiring. I mean, one after another, you're touching hearts. There's no way I can tell your stories. I love my book and I love the people in the book, but I must say you come alive in ways that give people a way of thinking that, yeah, I can. Don't ever say, no, I can't. It's really a time for us to transform our society. And whether it's a Women's Business Collaborative, the work that Maxine's doing, what each one of the women in the book are doing, what women everywhere are doing, it's our turn. And I only can say it's our turn. Let's not run backwards. It's something going on here. I don't care if you're, if you're now the head general manager of the Marlins or you're the first woman on the football team. Come on, let's get going. It's our turn. That was just beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, each of you. It's wonderful. We're just about ready to go to Freddie. And Eliza, we're going to give our book away.
Our next winner is Ruby Love.
Yay!
Ruby Love, you are the next winner.
It was a good time for us to talk about what we're doing. Because as the book was coming to a close, I realized that there are a lot of women who want to rethink their own life's journey. And both, Sharon and Edie and Maxine, they all talked about journey. And I really do think we don't have a destination. We're on a journey. And so Andi and I are creating a new online program that'll be ready, I think, May 1st. We're working hard on it, called Rethink Your Journey with Andie Simon, to help women rethink their journey. We also started a Facebook group called Rethink with Andie Simon. It's not my name. It's how do we come together as women, helping women to be the best you can be. But what's more important is what you can do. And so the call to action is, as you're listening to women tell you about what they're doing, it's an inspiration for you to begin to think about what you can do. So what can you do? I often think of this. If you see something, do something. This is about action. This isn't about, dreaming or wishing. It's about doing something. Think about what Sharon's doing to help women, to help other women. It's not a matter of waiting. Now's a good time. The second thing is that if you see some rules that aren't good ones, change those. In the Women's Business Collaborative, there's a whole movement to help increase diversity in the workplace. And what we're learning is that you can bring in a diverse pool of people, but they're not getting hired. And if they are getting hired, they're not getting promoted. It's time for us to change those rules and to really begin to think about how do we not simply talk about diversity, inclusion, and belonging, but actually making it happen. It's a time for us to stop thinking that it's a women's problem. It is a community of men and women. And the he's for she's are as important as the she's who are doing it. As Andie Kramer was saying, this is only going to change if we do it together. And if we do it together, it will be even better. And this is about imagining. We do a lot of work on helping people change. If you can imagine a better future, you can make it happen. I don't know why the mind is like that, but as you begin to imagine it, it begins to happen. And if you can change the story, you can live the story. It's not that hard. All we have to do is begin to do and not simply wish. And next thing you know, I know there are hurdles. Every woman in the book had to jump them, smash through the ceilings, climb over the walls. They're still there. 40% of the attorneys today are women, but only, 27% are partners, and not a lot of them are moving up. Over half the doctors are women, but they're not in the high-paid, high-structured areas. And there are only a third of the women in the colleges who are running them, even though over 60% of the women are in college and students, and they're doing really well. So there's a lot of work to be done, and who else but us to do it? And that's my hope for you. So help us rethink, smash the myths of women in business, tell new stories, and grow new myths. It's a great time for us to party together. And now, one more book, and then we'll go to Freddie. Eliza.
All right. We have another winner, Mary Louise Ball. Won a book?
ML, you did it. Yay. And you're here. Bravo. Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming, ML. ML has been with us and worked with us since 2002. It's been 20 years of us with ML. Thank you so much for tonight. Now, Eliza, it's okay if I turn us all over to Freddie.
Oh, yes. And actually, Melissa behind the scenes is going to take care of that.
Can I say one thing before we do that? I just want to tell everybody that Elisa Sherman and Melissa Fierce have been with us through this whole process, and they are just brilliant at putting together something. We have no idea what we're doing, and we made it up along the way, and they've guided me, often cranky, to create something really, I hope you're having as much fun as I am. And now, Freddie. That was amazing, amazing, amazing. You have no idea the excitement. That is just wonderful. And thank you so much, Freddie. What a joyful evening. Yes, we're all celebrating. Thank you for rethinking, even you. Thank you.
Andie, thank you for inviting me to celebrate with such an extraordinary cast of beautiful, wonderful, empowered women that you are leading to Rethink. It's just been a great honor. I want to thank all the people from our group too, you know, Mary Ryan and Verity and Terry and JD and Jim Kerr and Peter Winnick, Mahan, everyone from our gift world that we first met through. I really want to acknowledge everyone who brought us together.
Freddie is referring to a thought leader roundtable that we meet every Tuesday. And we're so lucky that Peter Winnick and Bill Sherman invited us all. And man, do we have a good time. And I miss it. And I'm coming back next Tuesday because thank you, Freddie. Without that, we would never have met. And what a treat. Talk about serendipity. So thank you. Thank everybody else. It's been such a pleasure. My last thoughts for you all. It's a time to get inspired to rethink, smash the myths, write some new ones. And remember that it's a wonderful time for us to be the best that we can be and help others do the same. I thank you all for coming. It's been such fun. If I can help you in any way, you know, the chat will take care of it, but you have my email. And thank you for those of you who I've never met before, because I sure would love to meet you. It's been fun. Good night now.